Excuse me, Mr. DJ.
Hey, check this out. We got a great show coming your way.
From the ECSI Sports Studios, it's the Midday Market Report with Jeff Dawson.
Good afternoon, sports fans from all around the globe. I am your host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and this is Three Men in a Box. That's right, we have three this week, as Quentin Mills has entered the building. Super stoked and excited to have the boys back as we digest week 3 in college football. Technically week 2, but I guess week 0 and 1 and 2 and whatever you call it, we're here. We were just talking backstage about the second half meltdown about LSU and Florida State, which we'll get into. We'll talk some SEC, and of course, I guess there's a pretty big game in Tuscaloosa, which we want to get into, Texas and Bama. And I guess, do you believe? I'm taking receipts. Prime time has a season opener against my all-time favorite team, Nebraska. We have no Tom Osborne, no Irvin Fryer, no Turner Gill. The list is endless there, and we're 3-point underdogs against something special brewing in Colorado, the return of the Buffaloes. But without further ado, let's bring the boys in themselves, the one and only Mr. Matt Grissom and Quentin Mills.
What's up, JD?
Afternoon,
Sounds
Jets.
like you've got something brewing over there. You got somebody mixing a drink already?
That's what it sounded like.
The wife is getting
it's
ready
never
to
too
head
early.
off to work. Yeah.
Sorry.
Adding the ice to the water for the trip. Hey,
Love it.
It's September 8th. No, September 9th. And it's like 87 degrees with 90% humidity. It feels like desert swarm here. So I don't know if it's global warming or whatever, you know. Listen, I've 115, 117 in July in Vegas. That's not a problem. Add 90% humidity to that. That's a problem.
Oh, yeah. For sure. East Coast humidity.
Overcast skies today in Arkansas, so I went out there and played golf in beautiful 78-degree clouds. It was marvelous. The game wasn't, but we ended up winning by a stroke, so I'll take it. But yeah, loving the weather right now. It almost feels like fall.
Nothing
fall
better
weather
than
is
that
about
crispier
my
of fall.
limit. I don't like winter, fall. 40s, 50s, jeans, hoodies, anything below, that's not me.
Q, we haven't had you on in months. I had Matt back last week, but we can't start the show without going back to the finale and just give us your take. You were there for the championship in college baseball, the atmosphere, the shots, and I know it's all goes to a good cause, but tell all the listeners that were watching back then that are back for today's show about that experience.
It was incredible. I got to thank my wife for letting me go back out. Without her, you know, I probably would have never got to experience that. So first and foremost, thank you to her. But it was cool. I was glad that the game I saw, Florida won 23-4. I was close to staying out for game 3, and I'm glad I didn't, because it was over by the second inning, and that would have been a long night and a long flight back. So everything works out for a reason. But I'll tell you, I've told Matt this. I've been to, you know, Florida, Georgia. I've been to the Big House for Michigan. I've been to, you know, Happy Valley. I've been to some cool stadiums and sporting events, and did a whole World Series run from the wild card game to the last game with the Nationals, and nothing tops a few days in Omaha. It's just an incredible experience. And on one hand, sometimes it's nice to go when your team's not there, because you can just enjoy it as a fan and maybe make some dollars gambling on it objectively. But it's cool also to be a part of a championship series. obviously it's not a Super Bowl, it's not a college football playoff game, but to me and Matt, I think the College Baseball Series is pretty high up there, and it was pretty cool to see Florida in that moment. You just never know if you're ever going to see it again. So to be able to see it is pretty cool, and hopefully, Matt, we can see Arkansas out there next year. I'm already looking forward to college baseball. I'm ready to get back to the books on it and ready to get back out to Omaha.
Yeah, and to touch on that, Arkansas
Oh, we
just
can't
tweeted
wait.
out they've got their fall classic going on today. They're actually going to start here in about 20 minutes. We'll see Brady Tigert and the Texas Tech transfer Mason Molina on the bump. So we've already got college baseball in the works.
I saw Florida's team. They're getting their new Wilson A2000s. They posted it. The Florida equipment's getting a new A2000 custom gloves, and it's just I'm so ready for it. I mean, you start seeing videos like that, little hype videos, and get you pumped.
Well, we will definitely be circling back the wagons with that. And actually, it'll kind of be a good lead in because, college basketball, conference championships, March Madness, and then it'll be tiptoeing in right to spring ball. So money never sleeps, as do us. So the three men in the box must move on, correct?
Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
All right, let's start where we were in the backstage, and we don't have to spend a lot of time on it. Last Sunday, LSU goes into the locker room up 17-14 against Florida State, two high-ranked teams. An extra point missed last year. Florida State wins. Great revenge spot for LSU. If you had LSU first half, God bless you. Unlike me, that of course had LSU money line in that on Sunday's game. LSU still in the locker room in my eyes, but Q, you said it best. One team made adjustments and one team didn't. Q, thoughts on what the hell happened in the second half there?
Yeah, to that point, it just seemed like Brian Kelly didn't change anything. It seemed like Florida State was getting good pressure on the quarterback for the entire first half. They were kind of able to escape it and get kind of lucky to go into halftime with the lead, but the offensive line looked pretty soft and compared to what we're used to seeing from LSU, and just didn't see any adjustments be made. It seemed like Jaden Daniels was kind of chasing himself all night, and if you don't make adjustments, it's tough to beat a team that's on the rise. I mean, Florida State had a couple years down, but they're a program that'll always typically trend towards the top, and Norvell seems to be like the guy in charge is going to be successful there. And he made adjustments. It's simple as that. I think both teams on paper were even, if not the edge to LSU, but the coaching definitely went to Mike Norvell that night. So well done by his part.
Yep.
Matt?
I second what Q said. He made adjustments and Brian Kelly did not. I don't know if they got complacent. They thought they were already in the college football playoff when they started the game, but hats off to Florida State and Norvell. I really hope that they capitalize off that, especially with Clemson going down. I think it should shape up to be a pretty competitive ACC. We'll see how Mac Brown can not live up to expectations once again in his illustrious career. I'm sure North Carolina is not going to ruin that, but I think the biggest shock of the weekend was probably Clemson going down.
Well, I was just going to go in.
Generalized.
There's my. Yeah. Go ahead.
I was just going to say there's a more generalized shock to me, as it just seemed like there was a lot of, I guess, Power 5 teams or top tier teams that just looked very mentally unprepared as well as physically unprepared, whether it was from the players or the coaching standpoint. So I took that as a huge shock. I expect a false start or two in the first half, but when you have several illegal formations, just bonehead plays throughout 4 quarters, it just, to me, that tells you that the preparation wasn't there for game one, which that's the best week of preparation you're going to have. You've been, looking at that week and that opponent for the entire spring camp as well as fall camp, and it just showed that all these teams were very complacent. So that was my biggest shock. Maybe not so much just Clemson, I think there were so many other teams in the same boat.
Well, Matt, I'm going to go to you on this one. On that game, and you guys can tell, I'm cold as ice. It doesn't matter if I have tomorrow's newspaper. I can't pick a winner right now. It doesn't matter what I do, and not that we don't have some winners here and there. I've really toned it down for a while, but my point is we have Clemson team total over 34 on that game, and I have never in my 45 years of experience or my 9 years since we debuted with East Coast Sports Investors have seen a team that had first and goal from the 1, first and goal from the 7, and first and goal from the 1, and I didn't get 1 point. And I won't even add the 2 missed field goals either. I've never seen that in my life. And no discredit to Duke, but it was kind of funny on social media that they were talking about this Duke defense like it was the 85 Bears. And the fact of the matter is Clemson did what they wanted in the second half. They just inept turnovers, inexperience. Dabo is not Dabo. I mean, he's done nothing without Watson or Trevor Lawrence. But still, I mean, Matt, your thoughts on Clemson? I mean, can they turn it around, or are they just trending in the wrong direction now?
I don't know. Cade Klubnik didn't look as good as what they kind of hyped him up to be. I've literally walked in the kitchen at one point thinking, okay, Clemson's about to score. Next thing I know, I walk back in the room and Duke's got it like on their Clemson 30-yard line. Just tons of turnovers. That was inexcusable. If you're Dabo Swinney, you can't do that if you're going to try to be that level of a coach. He was regarded up there with Nick Saban for so many years, and I think whether it be the transfer portal or recruiting or NIL, whatever he wants to, say that he doesn't care for, it's kind of making him look like an average coach at this point. And I know it's early where, this is probably going to be a drastic overreaction to one game. I was higher on Duke. I had him plus the points. I should have grown some balls and just bet him on the money line. But yeah, Duke looked really good and Clemson could not get out of their own way.
Yeah, I agree there 100%. So you got a Baylor team that was 28-point favorites. They lose outright. TCU 20.5-point favorites. They lose outright. Duke 13-point, and there was a handful of others, but those stick out. So let's just go to Colorado. Colorado beats a TCU team that was in the championship game. That it was obviously not the same TCU team. In comes Dion, all the hype. Do you believe? And they win in a shootout. Now settled around 3.5-point favorites at home opener against Nebraska. Hugh, thoughts on that to start?
It's like Matt was saying, it's a super square play, but to me, it's like, how do you not take it when you look at the Nebraska team that played Minnesota? Jeff Sims just didn't have the answer for me. They dominated that game against a pretty piss poor Minnesota team, and they still couldn't pull out a win. That was very concerning to me. They looked small. Nebraska typically trends on the bigger side of teams. That they don't have those guys right now. Matt Rule's it's a first-year coach. He's trying to figure out what he has. They're trying to figure out a new system, a new offense, a new defense. Just when I look at that, TCU game, obviously I think everybody kind of got enamored with the fact that they were the runner-ups last year and just how good Max Duggan actually made them look, and Quentin Johnson. They don't have that this year, so I'm going to say I was duped on that. I just didn't know with Dion, when you have 80 different new players on your team, like how that's going to gel. But tip my cap to the guy. Shadur Sanders looked incredible. His other son, plays decent on the defensive backside. Travis Hunter, he looks like a mini Dion, and we haven't seen that in so many years. 129 snaps is just incredible. And I'll be honest, he really didn't look that tired. I would assume he's going to do it again. I'm not concerned with that because they went into TCU and they upset them, and now they're still even being disrespected as of like Wednesday. Nebraska still had a 59% chance to win. I guarantee you that was taped in a locker room saying, boys, we just beat, a top 15 team in TCU. We were down, underdogs by 21 points essentially, and we're still being disrespected. Now we get to come home. We get to rock Boulder. When they let Ralphie go, that place is, you're going to think Cordell Stewart's back in that place. It's just going to be rocking. And I just don't see how they don't win by a touchdown or more with the Nebraska team that I saw, and only having a week to make adjustments. How do you stop Shedeur Sanders? He's so fast. The whole team's fast. I can't see Nebraska doing it. And I will say this. I do think Nebraska is going to score more than 7 to 10 points because Colorado's defense isn't anything to write home about. But I just don't see in a track meet how Colorado can lose and not even cover.
Yeah, I right there in unison with Q. I just don't see how Nebraska can score points to keep up with Colorado. And Jeff Sims looked horrible in his debut against Minnesota. I mean, threw 3 interceptions. Now you're going to go up against Travis Hunter out there, who's probably thirsty for another interception. I just, at the end of the day, I don't think we know yet what Colorado is, because you can't rate what Deion Sanders has done for this program, or Coach Prime, whatever he wants to be called. We've never seen anything like it. I mean, you're talking about a complete roster overhaul, and he's bringing in these dogs that can just absolutely play. They are way more athletic than Nebraska. They're better at quarterback, and I would say, Matt Rule's probably a little bit better of a coach, but being in Boulder, I would have to say Colorado is the right side, even though they're getting 91% of the money, 92% of the bets on DraftKings. It's a super square play, but I got Colorado money line early -130. I just don't see how Colorado has a letdown spot. The only way I can see Nebraska winning this game is if they just completely manhandle the small offensive line and defensive line of Colorado. But even then, you're gonna ask Jeff Sims to score at least 3 or 4 touchdowns. I don't know if he can do it.
Are we discrediting Minnesota's defense, or is Nebraska's offense just that bad?
I think it was the offense. You look at Jeff Sims' stat line: 114 yards, 1 touchdown, and 3 interceptions. Had a quarterback rating of 34.9, less than a 60% completion percentage. That will not cut it. I don't care who you're playing. And I know Big Ten's kind of hung their hat on, we're a work pail. We're going to drag this game out. It's going to be the most boring thing that you've ever watched in your life. But, I mean, they had no pop. I mean, they were averaging 5 yards a play, ranked 55th in the nation. I don't see how Nebraska can keep up with Colorado in this game.
Before we turn the scoreboard and the card over to you guys, Matt, give me your first impression of Bama and Texas on Saturday night in Tuscaloosa.
I think Texas is probably the play. I think Texas should have won last year, and this is a completely different team, but I think you've got a healthy Quinn Ewers. He's going to do well. I don't think Milroe is a very good quarterback as far as throwing the ball. I lean Texas +7.5, and I made this number Bama -6.5, so it's probably going to be tight. But if Texas can jump out early, I don't think Alabama can play from behind, in the sense that you're going to ask Jalen Milroe to throw 20, 30 passes being down. I think Texas's defense will be able to slow them down. They gave up 27 yards to Rice in rushing, 149 passing. I don't know how Alabama is going to be able to move the ball if Milroe is not completing long passes, and I just don't think he's got it in him.
Hugh?
I'm just going to sit back and enjoy it. One thing that concerns me is obviously Texas held their own in Austin last year. Quinn Ewers goes down and they lose a heartbreaker. But Sarkisian, in the big game, what is he? We don't know. Nick Saban's legendary in the sense of he just beats on his assistants like no other. And you're playing in Tuscaloosa this year. Now, again, it's a different team. Bryce Young's not there, Will Anderson, some other guys. But I feel like Nick Saban's got that team maybe playing pissed off because, they were kind of disrespected and saying they're not going to be that great all off season. And the guy's one of the best coaches to ever coach anything in sports. And he knows how to motivate his players. When you go down there, the maturity of those athletes compared to other colleges is just night and day. I mean, you go to college at another place, you're going to work when you play for the University of Alabama. You're punching a time clock every day. And that place is going to be rowdy. Tuscaloosa's a loud place to play. I'm curious to see what kind of Sarkisian coach we get. And I don't know. I mean, I like Quinn Ewers, but if I had to actually put a game, I'd either put Bama in a money line parlay, or I probably would lay. If I could buy the 0.5 point and get it 6.5, I'd probably take that because I just don't know what Sark's going to bring on the road in a hostile environment against, Nick Saban.
Yeah, I think this is like a 27-24 game. Alabama squeaks it out.
I'm going to go back to what we did in the spring, in our baseball show. I'm going to open up the board to both of you. We can start with Q. Give us a play that you're looking at, reasons why.
I like Kansas. I think Kansas handles Illinois. Lawrence, Lance Leipold put Lawrence on the map with the help of, the Buffalo guys he brought over. Great system. He's got a great quarterback in Jalen Daniels. Even though Lawrence isn't a Tuscaloosa, or a Knoxville, it's going to be loud for what that environment, can kind of handle. Illinois, tip your cap to Belima. He's doing really well there. They're Big Ten football. They're going to try to ground and pound. Kansas is one of, they're going to try to score, kind of have some hype up, energetic plays, keep the crowd in it. And I think that's going to happen. I think when you look at the team, I'm going to take Leipold as the coaching advantage, just in my opinion. And I like the quarterback better for Kansas. And I think it's going to be at least a 7-point win for Kansas at home. That place is not just a basketball school anymore in those students and that community's mind. It's not just Bill Self. Now it's Lance Leipold. We had College Game Day there last year. Let's continue to be on the rise, and they have a good program and a good coach. So because it's at home, give me Kansas minus the 2.5 or 3, whatever the line is now. And then give me UTSA. That was my other second play. They're minus 12.5. Frank Harris, a decent quarterback, threw 3 interceptions last week, just very uncharacteristic. They got a great running back, 2 great receivers. I think they bounce back and win pretty handily at home.
Just to touch on that game, because Q may talk me into betting Kansas. As a Arkansas Razorback fan, I know all too well the Brett Bielema coaching pattern, and Illinois almost lost to Toledo last week. They probably should have. I feel like Bielema gets way too comfortable trying to, squeeze away a win. And just like Arkansas did last year against Kansas in the bowl game, Kansas fought back and they score so quickly that I don't think, even if this game's like a 21-10 game at halftime, I would not be surprised if Kansas came back and won, just because Brett always tends to take his foot off the gas. So even if Illinois takes the lead, I still like Kansas to pull it out. So you may end up making me take Kansas. The only thing that worries me is it being Daniel's first start. It's kind of a tough ask. I probably would have felt a little better about it if I would have gotten him last weekend, just to kind of see what he could do. But yeah, I kind of lean Kansas too.
And from your playbook, Matt, give us a couple games that you got in pocket or will have in pocket on Saturday.
So the first one we bet was Colorado, which I already talked about. But then I immediately took Notre Dame minus 7.5. I thought that number would end up moving. I made this number 13.5, Notre Dame. I'm just not high on this NC State team at all. And I think what Notre Dame did to Navy was very impressive. I mean, I know that they were installing a new offense, and that's probably not a true marker of what this team is defensively. But I think overall, Sam Hartman, he lost last year 30-21 to NC State when he played for Wake Forest. He had 3 interceptions. I just don't think that he does that again. And Notre Dame's got better athletes than I think Wake Forest had top to bottom. This Notre Dame team has a lot to prove this year, and I think the addition of Sam Hartman is going to be the difference maker. Give me Notre Dame. I think they win this game like a 38-28 type game.
Anything else?
I got a lot. I got a 6-pack. Texas,
Go ahead.
Texas
Let it
plus
rip.
7.5. Texas plus 7.5. We already talked about that one. And this is a super square board for me. I made Oregon minus 9.5. That worries me. You're giving me 6.5. I'm going to take the Ducks. I get that Texas Tech had a disappointing loss against Wyoming last weekend. Oregon blew out Portland State 81-7. It's right there in front of your face that Texas Tech is probably going to win this game in an Oregon letdown spot. But I trust Bo Nix a lot more than Tyler Shout, and I laid it with the Ducks. I liked the over in that game. I think it's up to 69.5 or so right now. I'm probably going to stay off of it and just root for points, maybe end game it. But one that I am going over on is Ole Miss and Tulane. Love this matchup. I think Ole Miss is going to score probably in the 40s. And I think Michael Pratt and Tulane can too. So let's root for points in that one. I did make the line Ole Miss minus 11. So the fact that it's, I think, minus 7.5 right now, that seems a little short. But Lane Kiffin, he's going to have his hands full. This is a pretty good non-conference game for them.
Sean Alvarez wishes you both the best. Happy Friday. And he also said, Matt, that it's too early for a 6-pack, LOL. So never too early, especially on a Friday. Q.
Absolutely.
Give us a couple more if you do have any on your desk.
Yeah, I'm rolling the Colorado, the UTSA, the Kansas is kind of what I'm looking at now. I might take the Notre Dame. We've kind of been talking about it all week, and I'm definitely trending that way. I think Estime is a great running back for Notre Dame. Sam Hartman, again, he's such an incredible quarterback, and now he's just gotten such a better team when you compare his Wake Forest teams to Notre Dame. So I'm looking at that. I'm actually looking – so I'm going to the JMU-UVA game. For those that don't know, it's the first home game from UVA losing their 3 players. So that should be a pretty cool moment, but they're rough. Their quarterback's already banged up. I mentioned this last week on the pod. You know, UVA is not known as a football school per se, but they're still in the ACC. You think you could probably get a transfer in from a little better school than Monmouth. So that's concerning, you know, in Tony Elliott's recruiting strategy. And I think JMU outright is going to be the play. I think JMU is a good program. You know, they came from the FCS a couple years ago. They play, I believe, in the Sun Belt, which is incredible football. You know, App State, Troy, Louisiana, Coastal. So they play really good teams. So I'm looking to play JMU on the money line. I don't believe – I think it was like my plus 200. So I think you're getting good value there by taking them, even though they're on the road. It's a local game for them. Charlottesville and Harrisburg are only a few miles apart in the grand scheme of things. They're going to have a great crowd. So it should be a good game to be at, and let's go JMU.
I actually think JMU is favored.
Shout out to Bill.
Oh, are they favored now? Okay, they initially weren't.
Yeah, I mean, both of my books have JMU minus 6.5, Virginia plus 6.5.
I mean, take the 6.5. JMU is so much better. Take it.
And the opening number was 45 down to 40. It's 39 at Circus, so we're expecting a tight, low-scoring game there as well.
Yeah.
Shout out to Billy Hewlin. He says, "Good afternoon, boys. Let's cash some tickets this weekend. I know Billy will have all his eyes in Tuscaloosa. Big time Bama fan. So that is the big game there. Before we wrap it up, guys, give us just, a lot of upsets last week. We talked about Baylor. We talked about TCU. There was a handful of other big upsets, eye openers. Duke, obviously, Clemson. I'll start with you, Matt. Give us the temperature in the SEC. Give us a team that we should put on either alert or look out for. How's that sound?
Well, you need to put Florida on life alert. I think their program is just extremely disappointing, and I don't think LSU is going to be that great. I think we talked last weekend. I know we did on our show that I like them plus 180 to win the SEC West, and after seeing Jaden Daniels, he hadn't changed. I mean, it's still the same Jaden Daniels, and I don't think he can win at an elite level that it's going to take to win the SEC West. So if LSU doesn't figure it out and get Brian Kelly, to overperform with Daniels, I think he may see the bench sooner than later. But I don't know. I'm going to the Kent State game with the Arkansas Kent State game this weekend, where we're also honoring Alex Collins and Ryan Mallett. So that should be a big, a big celebratory game. I think we're favored by like 38.5, but Rocket Sanders, our running back, he's going to miss a few weeks. I think he got banged up. So that's a little concerning, but I'm very curious about this Ole Miss team, and it's a long-winded answer, but I think Lane Kiffin has all the tools. He's got his quarterback he loves in Jackson Dart. I think Ole Miss could be very dangerous, especially with the way that they're scoring points. Granted, they did it against a very weak competition, so that's why I'm going to tentatively watch this Ole Miss game very closely and watch their offense and how they operate, because I think Ole Miss could kind of be a little dark horse in the SEC West. And we all know how his hatred for Nick Saban, how bad he wants to beat him. That'll come down to a pretty good game.
Q?
I think I need one more week of college football to really give an accurate answer. I'll tell you that the teams I'm looking out for, and this weekend and maybe next weekend, is LSU and Alabama. We talked about both programs today. What Matt said is with Jaden Daniels, how does Brian Kelly kind of overcome the loss they just took? Do they make the adjustments? Do they kind of get back to playing, Tiger football? And then I think we got to see how Alabama handles Texas at home. If they kind of lay an egg there, then I think it's a little concerning. You could probably call that more of a rebuild year, but if they handle Texas pretty handedly, then I think we're looking at a team that maybe is a little better than people expected. I'm not really worried about Ole Miss. They're going to be 8-4 every year under Lane Kiffin. That's just kind of his personality and just kind of his mantra. Florida, it's definitely concerning. I want to see, again, I know they're playing McNeese State, but I want to see the mental mistakes go away to see if that program's got any, ability to kind of bounce back, or if they're just kind of the wheels have completely fallen off and the program's in disarray. So I'm looking at that. Arkansas, how do they handle? Obviously, Kent State's going to be, a pretty easy win without Rocket Sanders. But how do they handle? How does KJ kind of handle that? Who steps up in Sanders' position? Who's the next man up? And so that's kind of something I'm looking for, because, I look at Arkansas. I think I had them, low end 7-5, 8-4, realistic, maybe 9-3 on the high end. What team do we have? I think that's going to be one of the teams that I'm kind of looking at with Pittman and the job he's done there over the next few weeks. So I think it's hard to tell right now.
All right, the scroll has been going the whole time, but as we always end here, I just flip it right up to you guys. So, Matt, tell everyone where they can find you, all your good work and all your expertise analysis.
at Grissom Tweets on X, which I guess I need to change that now. I don't know if Grissom X is available. Or follow us on NCAA Insiders, and NCAAinsiders.com is going to be all of our tracked bets, spreadsheet, everything we put out. So follow along, try to win some money.
Maddie? All right, Maddie. Q?
Yeah, all the NCAA Insider stuff, as well as at Q Millie. That's 3 L's and 2 Y's. And then I'm also, you can find my stuff on Notebook Wagering. I have another podcast with some local guys that we have a lot of fun with. Matt, always enjoys coming on, and it's a good time. So follow our X. It's not our Twitter anymore, and you'll stay with plays. Sometimes we add plays that we see a line or see an injury. So stay on top of us all weekend. There's going to be plays, and I'll tell you what, I'm 4-7 right now. We're changing that. Jeff, I know you and I have been ice cold, but things start to heat up today. It's hot outside. Our books are getting hot.
Listen, it's a marathon, not a sprint, so everyone can go blowing by me right now. I could give a rat's ass. I put baseball on the shelf last week, and I, of course, my desk plays because I still got to keep an eye on it and do all the work and stuff. 3-1 last night, 2-0 the night before, and as soon as I release them, we go 0-5. So the desk plays can keep adding up. But we're concentrating on college football, NFL football, obviously. To everyone that watched, listened, talked to us, Billy, Sean, and the guys behind the desk, Joe Shea. And then I think I'm going to give him a plug here. Mr. Evan Lewis, if you're here, congrats. Welcome to the team. You can catch myself, Matt, and Q next Friday, 3 o'clock. Go over to Grissom Tweets. Go over to Q Millie. Go over to Notebook Wager 1. Go over to NCAA Insiders. Follow them. Ask them questions. Pick their brains. That's what we're here for. We're here to educate with a little entertainment. We save the entertainment for that 4-letter word that starts with an E and ends with an N, and the 2 letters in between are called S and P. So have a blast. At 5 o'clock, 1 hour from now, myself and Ron from Ron A Sports will be talking some NFL. And until then, enjoy Friday, enjoy the weekend, and we'll see you soon.